go again. Ooh. Okay, you can sit down, Michael. My point is, don't be afraid to ask for help. Jeannie came to the woods one day. I had a student there from Idaho. I had my good broke Billings horse. He was 4 years old that winter. And I had Hannah, I think she was 8 that winter. Been skidding wood all day. It was almost noon. And I pulled out a heck of a pull. They'd been doing, my cutter was having a bad day. Like every tree he cut, he hung that day. So Billings and Hannah were pulling down trees. There was no frost in the woods that winter, so everything pulled hard. It was mud. And they just had a heck of a pull coming out. I couldn't have been prouder of them. I stopped them, and there was a little sapling right in between them. And on driving horses, I got a line going to the outside of his mouth. I got a line going out the outside of her mouth. From this line goes down to this left-hand side of this mouth. From this right-hand line, I got a line going down to the right-hand side of their mouth. So you have a cross line in the middle. There's a little sapling in front of them. I got down and hooked the log, and I'm talking. I'm thinking, man, I'm looking bad. You know, I'm looking good. The student is just like, I can't believe horses can pull that much. This is just how. And I asked him to go. And there's a little bud. This is getting towards the end of February. There's a little bud on that sapling. It grabs Billings' line, but not Hannah's. So when I asked him to go, Hannah's 8 years old. Boss said, go. We go. Billings said, boss said, go, or something got in my mouth. In 1 second, my team's turned inside out. Billings' head is down by Hannah's rear limb. Hannah's this way. They're head to toe now. They're turned inside out. Billings is on the ground. Got a spacer strap. And I go, whoa. Like nothing's wrong. Under the water, my little duck feet are paddling. But on the surface, you're, whoa. Everything's cool. This happens all the time. There's nothing to worry about. I got this. You know Jason can save you. And I turned and I looked at the group and I go, I need help. Don't be proud. Just say, I need help. Katrina came running. I forget who else came running. I think Jeannie came running. So not all the non-smart people came running right into the mess. And we got the spacer strap off the brickings, and we're getting the tugs off the evener. We get a bunch of stuff off, because with harness horses, what you don't realize, you guys got a girth, and you got everything kind of packed together neat and orderly. With us, we got lines and shit everywhere. And I go, you're okay, Billings. And he stands up. We get him turned back inside out. I snap everything back together. We are not going to lunch on a bad note. I go right back in. I grab another top. When that was a firewood top, we took it all the way out to the landing, where we're going to eat dinner anyways. Everything acts like nothing happened. And inside you're thinking, ooh, dodged another one. You know, you just got to be cool. It's a little bit of a poker game. You guys are dealing with riding horses that are 15 to 20 times stronger than you. I'm dealing with draft horses that are 25 to 50 times stronger than me. It's a poker game. They only believe I'm the boss. They only believe I'm tougher. So just be cool, you know. Just even if you're not, play it cool. Even if things are bad. Because adding gas to the fire is not going to put it out. So that's one story. I've been run over. I've had teeth jerked out. I had a shoulder wreck. I've been stepped on. I've been kicked. If you really want this, what I mean is a life with horses. If you really want this, depending on how deep you get into it, stuff's probably going to happen to you. Even if you're careful. And you just got to decide. I mean, if you play football, you're going to get hit. If you do horses, you're probably going to get dumped sooner or later. Or drugged, or run over, or kicked, or stepped on, or... if you want an example of another boss thing, so Billings died last summer, 4.5 years old. The vets figured Clostridium poisoning, shut his kidneys down. And I lost Billings, and I was pretty broke up over it. 3 days later, a guy, I put it on Facebook, but 3 days later, a guy he's an old guy, doesn't have Facebook or anything, calls me from Washington State, says, Jason, I'm selling land down by the river, and I'm getting rid of my horses. Do you want to buy my stud horse? He had no idea Billings died. It was just the God factor again. And I said, no. I was pissed and I was angry. I didn't even know if I was going to stick with Brabants. 6 weeks later, I'm headed to Washington for a new stud horse in a new truck. And with a Jersey heifer in on trade because they wanted a Jersey heifer. So don't ask me how. It is a disease. You have to be careful. But we're headed to Washington to get this horse. 8.5 years old. And he said, oh, he's tame. We can get him in the lot and get a halter on him. He's like a pet. Them are all warning signs. Okay? You should interpret that as, I think we can get him in a pasture. I think we can get a halter on him. We've been up close to him before. This boy is big, he's fat, he's sassy, he's had his way for 8.5 years. So I get out there to Washington after 35 hours of driving, get on the side of this mountain, put my first scratch in the truck trying to get up his driveway. It's just literally on the side of a mountain. There's hardly any room. It's like the type of place where they cut out of the side of the hill to get enough fill to build a garage. So you're trying to get a four-door truck and a truck and trailer turned around to be headed out. And went and did the paperwork and paid the guy because the horse looked beautiful. And they had him in a lot and they had a halter on him. And we come out of the house and this is this little guy. no knock on him, but sometimes you get the Napoleon complex going. And he goes, I'll take your lead line and catch him. I go, sure, great. And I just watched. And he went out there and he went to catch my new 8.5-year-old stud horse, and he goes, and I thought to myself, well, I'm not going to say on camera what I thought to myself, but I thought, shit. That horse is the boss. And he's a ton, and he's fat. He's 8.5 years old, so now you're looking at a 40-year-old man who's never had a boss, never been told no, had his way his whole life. Been running with a Baron mare for 4 years that he tried to breed all the time. She was always kind of in heat, never really out of heat, never really in heat. Oh, what did I buy? That's what I thought. 2.5 hours later, we were leaving his driveway. He was finally on the trailer. And there was ropes and pulleys involved. It was 94, 95 degrees on the truck thermometer when we left there. And I had a 2,000-pound stud horse standing in the trailer, soaking wet and sweat, headed home. I still have 35 hours of driving ahead of me. I have a 16-year-old that had had his license a little bit. And I have a mom who's had her license a long time that don't drive at night. And I had 13 hours just to get off the mountain to get back down on what I would call like the plains. So I drove another 13 hours, and before I turned it over, by then it was night. So Aaron drove some that night. We slept an hour and a half that night. I drove some more, Aaron drove some more. Come daylight, Grandma drove some more. And then we drove some more, and we drove some more. And we only stopped a couple times. We got him home. I got home at 2:30 in the morning. I just left him on the trailer. I went and slept 2 hours and got up for milking with Katrina. Let him off the trailer into a round pen. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea, but it worked out. He didn't crash the round pen or nothing. And he had hot wire on one side, and he ran around screaming, and I don't know if we did much besides just try to get him caught and get him to water a few days. And I've likened it to leading a tornado. You know, you get a 40-year-old college student, never been out of college, and you told him, put down your protesting sign, you're getting a job. And he was not happy about it. So now, I'll describe Conan another way. We decided we don't want Genghis Khan, probably don't want Archie Bunker's wife, we want to be somewhere in the middle. A horse is a lot stronger than you. So here's my vertical view of a horse. Pretty good artist, huh? Also, it looks like a ship. Okay? So, let's say this is the Titanic or something big, you know, whatever, something big. How, the Bismarck, there you go. How easy is it to turn a big ship like this? Not very good. Easier to turn a big ship like this. Well, I had to get Conan from here, meaning whatever word you want to pick, wild, spoiled, to here, useful. And we chose this route. We did not choose this route. This route looked painful because this guy already knew he was stronger than me. He wasn't a beautiful little colt that, you know, kind of grew up with you and accepted you as the boss. This guy was already the Bismarck or whatever. He already knew he was strong. So we tried to get to this point, and there again, I tried to ward off this. I'm a young, tough guy. Not young anymore, but I thought I was pretty tough. I tried to ward off that, and I called a, we'll just say older than 50-year-old lady who had a lot of horse experience to come help me. I said, I got into something here. Come over here and see what I got. Jeannie comes over there, and she gave me some more skills and knowledge to use on him, and we just started bumping this ship to where we wanted to get. We didn't go right at him the first day because he might have. And I had advice, guys, the worst thing for horsemanship, the best thing you can do for horsemanship is never look at Facebook. There are so many wannabe cowboys on there. I had advice on there, you get a 3-foot pipe with 3 foot of chain on the end of it. Yeah, you know what you'd have made out of him? You'd have made a man killer. Because he already knew he was tougher. And you guys think your quarter horses could move? You should see this big guy move. The most athletic big horse I've ever seen. So we just kind of kept bumping him. You know, we got it better where we could lead the water. No, you have 4 feet, I have 2. Use your own feet, stay off of mine. No, this is my space. See, oh, we did that good, we get a little grass. We'll go eat some grass. He'd never seen green grass. I'm not kidding. He'd never been under a roof. He'd never been confined. He'd never been tied up, never under a roof, never seen green grass. Just like a mountain desert, an arid desert out there. So you did that good, we'll go have some grass. And we just kind of kept bumping the Bismarck, Conan, kept bumping him to useful. When I got to where I thought he was going to be useful, my wife said she didn't want nothing to do with this one. She usually helps me start colts. So I got a guy that cuts for me in the woods. Really excellent horseman, happens to be Amish. Them are not always the same thing. But he is an excellent horseman, he happens to be Amish. And I had him come over, and we hitched him with a really good mare named Holly. She's a 9-year-old mare this year. She's my slowest mare, but she's also the most even keel. She was also pregnant to Billings, so I was nervous about that. But I tied him back to Holly about 3 ways from Sunday. We had him on a giant 3,000-pound power cart with hydraulic brakes. We had a sled hooked on behind the power cart with a 1,000-pound bale. We had some weight behind him, and it's because we did not want to go for a ride. And when we went to hitch him with Holly, he struck out. He was still, see, when we started, he'd rear straight up at the back of the trailer and strike out and try to get you. When I say temper tantrums, he was moving my 20-foot stock trailer in my 1-ton truck when we had him roped in and he actually couldn't get loose. I went an hour and a half. Kind of funny, we get in the truck after it's all over, and my 16, 17-year-old son, Aaron, he looks at me and goes, I can't believe how long Dad was calm. And then you have a little self-check that maybe you've lost your temper a few times in life. But I was good for about an hour and a half, and that horse, and this is something that comes with wisdom and knowledge. You have to know when they're scared and 2 years old, or when they're not scared and they're actually disrespectful because they do not recognize you as leader. And by the time I had that horse on the trailer, he already recognized me as leader, and he did not get away that day. He could not get away, did not get away. So we came a long ways just getting him on that trailer that day. We had, and I told the owner, because I was the owner at that point, I paid him in the papers, but when you're doing stuff in front of people, I'm not comfortable because you don't know about people anymore. And I finally looked at him after an hour and a half and said, this is not working. I said, I've got to get my horse on the trailer. He goes, you do whatever you got to do. So I went at that horse, and I about backed him off the end of, I mean, everything there was a cliff. I about backed him off the end of the cliff. That's the first time a human had ever backed him up. And I had to. He had to respect me as leader, that if you disrespected me, there was consequences. Now, that doesn't mean I beat him with a stick. I just went right at him, and at that point, I was Irish and mad enough that I was going at him. He was backing up. I wasn't backing up, and luckily it worked. Sometimes it's a bluff. But I backed him up, so he was already, starting to recognize me as leader. And so that day he struck out again when we were hitching him to Holly, and he already knew that was a no. He got reprimanded with that. When I say reprimanded, we have a plastic wiffle bat, a kid's wiffle bat. Do you think a plastic bat's going to hurt a 2,000-pound stud horse? No, but it's loud, and he thinks, oh, I got to go. Doesn't put a mark on him, doesn't it? Got him hitched with Holly, and we started driving. So here's where this comes in. We just kept adding the magic lotion. We kept adding the magic lotion. We kept adding the magic lotion. We didn't let that horse hardly dry out. We kept finding jobs for him that we didn't think we'd get killed doing. We kept that horse sweaty. Kept that horse wet. Yes, we had skills and knowledge on our side. We knew what we were doing that way. We were willing to sacrifice a bunch of useless time for tasks that could have been done 3 times as fast with a rope horse, because we had to get the magic lotion on Conan. And the magic lotion, people, is sweat. It's just sweat. If you're not willing to invest the time, do not expect the same results. The people that can really play that cello, or that bass, or that violin, in that group I like, I guarantee you they've invested the time. Anybody can go out and buy an instrument. Anybody could have went and bought Conan. It doesn't mean Conan would have got there today unless you're willing to invest the time. And it's not just time, you have to have skills and knowledge and sacrifice and self-control. You guys want to know my weaknesses? At 20 years old, I was a lot stronger, a lot faster, testosterone was flying through the roof, I had less skills, less knowledge, less self-control. I was willing to make sacrifices, and I was willing to put the sweat on. I would work a horse and work a horse and work a horse. But as you get older and you've had a few more things hurt and you have more arthritis, you tend to want to go seek out some knowledge and skill. Still add this, you make less of these, and add a lot more of that. Even if under the surface you, I want to kill you, so yeah, I would eat horse sausage any day of the week right now, But you don't show it. It's all a poker game. Okay, we're gonna try again. It's okay. And under the surface, you're just like, if you do that one more time, I swear to God, I'm gonna sell you to the French. Self-control, huge one. These are huge ones too, but they're negative. 95-5 rule, I haven't touched on that much. I don't know if Jeannie and I agree on this or not. I think there's 3-4 horses out of 100 that are just never going to be anything. They're line bred, they're inbred, they were too slow being born, lost some oxygen to the brain. A lot of times out of that 3 or 4 or 5%, 90% of them, 3 or 4 or 5%, is probably a human screwed it up to begin with, and they're so screwed up now that unless you're willing to invest tons of these, you're not going to bring that horse back. And there's a lot of good horses out there. And you have to be truthful. Do I even have the skills? I may have the knowledge at 65 years old, but I may not have the skills anymore. That horse is beyond me. I'm 65 years old. What am I thinking? If Josh doesn't want to do it, or maybe my grandson, them skills have left me at that point. I may have knowledge. I may have useful knowledge to depart on my grandson. Say, hey, this is about to happen. Get them lines unwrapped off your hands. You don't want to be drugged to death. Hey, he's thinking about running away on you right now. Watch that flag. You don't like that flag over there. Emerald knowledge. That's stuff I'm seeing happen before it happens. But I'm not 20 years old anymore. I can't jump in the back of a pickup truck as it rolls by at 5 miles an hour. I can't jump out of the way of a 2,000-pound horse. That's being honest with yourself and acknowledging what you have to work with. So yeah, we got Conan to where we wanted to be. Come January, we put him in the woods after we got rid of some jobs that were near too big of highways. I didn't want to work him there. So we started him around Thanksgiving. By a little after the first of the year, he was in the woods up here in a very private woods, not near any major highway. And we've worked him since. Is he perfect? No. Is he like one I've raised? No. Is he useful? Yes. And he's got tremendous genetics. I would like to think we salvaged that horse. He was standing out on the side of that mountain, wasting away, with beautiful papers, beautiful genetics, beautiful horse, standing out there screaming, not to be too vulgar, wasting semen on a barren mare. That was, you know, I mean, he's got a life now. He loves going with me. He recognizes me as a leader. Every once in a while, I'll see a little flash in his eye, and that just comes with wisdom and time of recognizing that. Every once in a while, I'll see a little flash in his eye, is like, I'm not totally tame. And I'll say, I can see that, but just remember, I'm the boss, right? You know, you try to convince him. But every once in a while, you see a little flash in his eye, like, I'm not Billings, Jason. Don't do that again. I may fight back. You have to keep in your mind, it's a poker game. He's 25 to 50 times stronger than me. Convince him you're the leader as much as you can, but have an escape route is what I'm trying to say. You know, don't get yourself in a situation that you can't get out of. When I step into some bad spots with horses hitched to stuff, because I trust that horse a lot. It could still happen. With a horse you trust a lot, it probably won't. But I wouldn't do it with a Colt or with an 8-year-old that had no manners. That's part of situational awareness. If you recognize, okay, maybe not 65, and I'll probably die before then of something I shouldn't have been doing. But let's say I live through all that and I get to a point where I don't have the skills or anything anymore, I'll go get a 4-wheeler. That's okay. If I'm 75 or 80 and I don't want anything bucking or not listening anymore, I'll go get a 4-wheeler and I'll ride around and talk smart. Give advice or something, you know? I might need a lift to get on the 4-wheeler at that point. But that's okay. So I don't know, that's what I could say. This is the Holy Grail. Put a wool on your horse before anything else. Nothing usually. Jim, the guy that I rode them thoroughbreds for a couple years, and mostly pitched box stalls and rode thoroughbreds because he was a lazy SOB. But anyways, wool, and he says, not many people ever got hurt on top of the horse. It's usually when they're underneath or on the ground. Stay on top of the horse and have a wool. That's right. Another guy that I have absolutely no respect for, I have no respect for the man. As a teamster, I learned one of my biggest safety tips from him. Unhook the tugs. If them horses are going to run away with your implement, make them run away with their mouth. Unhook the tugs from the evener. Tie the lines. If they want to run away, they're going to pull it with their mouth. Another person, she's a good teamster. You wouldn't think she's as good as she is. She's just a good teamster. But because of appearances, you look at her and say, well, you know, she's 45, 50 years old. And she kind of, you know, maybe she's a little bit of a beginner. I learned one of my biggest safety tips from her for fly season. You know? I had a lot of respect for her by the end of the day. But because of pride or prejudice, I looked at her at the beginning and I thought, oh, she don't know. You know, how good could she be? Learned some good tips from her that day. I tape my neck yoke snaps now. At the end of the day, I had a lot more respect for her because I try to keep an open mind. You know, if I came in here and I was 40 pounds lighter, had on tight Wranglers, chaps for absolutely no reason, didn't plan on branding cattle day, but I had the chaps on. Your accentuate what you want to accentuate. You talk real slowly, trace actions and stuff. You have a different. It's packaging. Impression, packaging. If you were all dressage people here and I came in with my tights and I had my helmet, my crop, and I looked like Colonel Klink, you know, it'd give you a different impression. It could be deceiving sometimes what you can learn from somebody. The greatest horseman I know for draft industry, where's Bill Overmans? He's 78 years old, he's never owned a tractor. And he's not 50 miles from here. He's been on a couple magazine articles. I knew him from the 80s from a couple magazine articles. He's been on a couple lately because I've reintroduced him to the people that print magazines that, hey, this guy's my mentor, this guy's forgotten more than I know. You ought to go interview this guy. He's really good. But like in Jesus' time, we tend to think, you know, what's the only place Jesus wasn't accepted? His hometown. We tend to think if we don't drive 800 miles and the person don't have on all the gear and they're not marketing a product, you know, I got this halter or this bridle or this rope and these chaps, and they're going to make you a better cowboy. You know, I'm not marketing any product here today. I'm marketing magic lotion, and I don't sell it. So don't let your paradigm get set. Don't be prejudiced right away. You'd be surprised what you can learn from people that you don't even have any respect for, but they got one good tip. Shit, I'm going to use that. That might save my life someday. I'm going to use that the rest of my life. I'm going to take my snaps during fly season, or when we're hauling 450 8th graders in a day that have no brains whatsoever about horses. You know, just anything you can pick it up where you can. You don't quit learning. I don't know, you know, you can get a four-wheeler, you can stick with I will always have horses. I plan on trying to stay under God's wing, be married to that woman, and always have lines in my hands. And that's all I have to say. Right to it.
Thank you.
You guys got any questions?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Anything. You'd be surprised how much of it's all the same. We ride our horses. You can ride them. It's like taking a 1-ton to church, but